and gentlemen, my name is Preach and a new adventure is starting today. We are heading into the Darkest Dungeon, a game that has been on my radar for so many years. I never had a chance to play it. I didn't have a chance to settle down. And not only that, we're doing it with a twist for our community, for you guys. Is our in-house artist, Mr. Chris, is creating modified versions of the characters, just graphically. Gameplay will not change. So where this will escalate to, I have no idea. Big shout out to our Twitch viewers who hit a sub goal to enable us to give Chris the time to do this. You guys are phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. So, Darkest Dungeon. I know it's brutal. I know it's bad. My actually incentive for this is I wanted some revenge on our live stream viewers because they can be very mean to me sometimes. In a fun way, but I wanted to name some of the characters. I was looking for a game where I could name the characters and they might end up annoying me, but seemingly as it is, those guys have fully embraced it and are on board with the nightmare they've created for me. I knew this game was going to be absolute brutal. I had heard that when it was out and it was popular at the time. I know there's a sequel out, but we're going to go with Darkest Dungeon 1. I have no issue doing that. It's with this style of game, it's timeless, so it doesn't particularly matter, and I wanted to see where it began. We won't be utilizing the DLC. We'll be playing whatever we can. So, getting started, what is Darkest Dungeon for you fresh viewers that's happening? Basically, we have a hamlet, our town, which has a number of assets in it, from a wagon where we can recruit new heroes. We've got a sanatorium where we can heal people up if they get diseased or they pick up certain quirks, which we don't want. And we have a number of stress-relieving places like the tavern, the abbey, where they can go and pray if they're religious, or they can go drinking or go to the brothel if they're that way inclined, which will reduce their stress. Because stress and health are the two resources you need to manage. It's one thing if the enemy drains your health, you don't actually die immediately. You have a chance of surviving. You have a roll every time you take more damage to see if you're going to die. But you also have stress, which will build up. And if you get too stressed out, the first bar that fills up will give you some horrible, horrible malediction, which makes you just the worst person in humanity to have with you in a dungeon. It's like suddenly picking up someone with a WoW rated.io score of 1. And then if it fills up twice, which it can do, because some enemies do massive stress damage, then you'll have a heart attack and die through the depths of the Darkest Dungeon. And essentially, what we're going to do is assemble a team of 4, head into the dungeon and try and complete the quest, which will result in gold and resources to upgrade. It's a roguelike, and also trinkets and things, which gives us passive bonuses. And we have a whole bunch of classes to choose from. In fact, I've not even tried all the classes yet. I've been trying to pick them up as and when they appear, but there's a lot. There's a hell of a lot. The opening of the game was very stressful. Just the tutorial to get you to the hamlet nearly had me dead. This was very apparent that this game is not messing around. On top of that, it introduced me to the idea of curios. So as you're traveling between the rooms of the dungeon, it's a random map layout, you will encounter curios. Could be urns, it could be a bookshelf, it could be something, which is obviously a roll of the dice as to what it does. But what you can do is apply an item to some of them to guarantee it will be good. I've had to start making a list because we always play these games blind, so no help will be given as to what item's supposed to go in where. And if they're bad, they can be really bad. They can damage you. They can give you massive amounts of stress. If you read, let's say you find a confession booth and you go inside it and you hear the confessions of a madman, then that might terrorize you, stress you out, or even give you a bad quirk. And a bad quirk can be something like you eat twice as much food because you get stress hungry, you're scared of light, you don't like humanity, things like that. And then good ones can be a little bit of a bonus if the light conditions are good. A big part of the dungeon is the provisions. So let's talk about that. Before you go out on a quest, so far it's giving me short and medium quests. And it's basically the size of the dungeon. Is it a short dungeon or is it a medium dungeon? And you have to use your gold to actually provision the team. So you want to buy things like torches, because if you keep the area lit, you have more chance to surprise enemies. They have less chance to surprise you. Stress buildup is different, so you want a lot of torches to keep the area lit as you traverse your way through. You might want to buy things like bandages. If you get debuffed with bleed, bandage will cure it off, and you might not have a player capable of removing their own bleed or somebody else's bleed. Herbs and things like that. Keys to open chests you might find. If you find a chest and it's you can open it, you can take the stuff, but if you have a key, you might find a hidden compartment in it which has more loot, more stuff to get. So, that's the general idea of the game. Oh boy! Some say I got very lucky, some say I didn't. But nobody died in my first day of playing this game. But I want to tell you the tale, my friends. I want to regale you with the tale of Pablo Escobari, a regular viewer of ours for a very long time, who made his way onto my shit list and was decidedly one of the characters. Pablio was a leper. I was a bit worried about adding a leper to the team. That was his class. He's got leprosy. But a leper ended up to be a big two-handed whacker, which I love. So I was like, oh, cool. And one of the most important aspects of the game that I was not prepared for is the position of your team, like what order they're in. Certain spells only work from which position you're in, and certain spells only hit the enemy in certain positions. So what you'll see regularly when you're watching is 2 bars, one that's sort of a yellow light color, and then the red ones, with 4 circles. And that's indicating if where the person wants to be stood on the light side. He wants to be like 2nd or 3rd position, whatever it might be. And then the red circles are what that spell can damage. So a lot of spells can only damage, say, the first 2 people or 1 person. And if they're linked together, like Path of Exile gems, that means it'll hit 2 targets. Some will only hit the back row, some will only hit 3rd. And then some abilities in the game change where you're stood. So an enemy can hit you and swap your character order around, meaning some of your spells are disabled. You can also use abilities that move your character around intentionally. So I played a class called the Jester. I think it was, it was the Jester. And the Jester had a mechanic where it could build up a modifier to its big finishing move, but it had to change positions to accomplish it. So it like generated this modifier in, say, position 3 or 4, but it needed to be in position 2 to actually do the finisher, which did massive damage after you'd built up the modifier. So a lot of stuff like that that's a bit technical for me after the first day, but I'm sure we'll get there. So very excited by that. Pablio Escobari. I brought him in with a pretty decent team that I'd done a couple of runs with. And first of all, I have to say, I'm in love with this game. This is so fun for me because it's stressful, it's difficult, and I have the most fun in video games when I'm kind of on the edge of, like, this could all go wrong at any moment. Like, I love that. That's why I like doing super hard raid bosses, etc. Pablio fell into traps that I couldn't see on the floor, which stressed him out. And his stress started building before we'd even done anything. And then he got, like, attacked, and he got super stressed out, and very quickly in the dungeon, despite the fact the rest of the team was absolutely fine, and I just said, it feels like the rest of the team is just side-eyeing this guy. Like, what the hell is wrong with this dude, right? It felt like that. He's side-eyeing him, like, Because he's, like, losing his mind. He picked up the quirk Selfish. And it was a malediction. As I said, if you reach a full stress bar, you get a malediction, which is really bad. And it has to be cleansed by totally de-stressing the character. So he became selfish. What did that mean? The worst results imaginable. In that, not only did he start stealing my loot because he thought he deserved it. So I would, like... I even completed the quest, which is the whole reason I went to this dungeon, which gave me, like, resources I needed to upgrade, like, the blacksmith, to upgrade everybody's weapons. And he was like, that's my stuff. I earned this, and just took it from me. But he would randomly just walk past chests and be like, oh, chest, that's mine, and just take all my loot. That alone was frustrating. But then it got worse. Because he also learned Egomaniac. And what that meant is that he would just decide that he was no longer taking part in the fight because he deserved a rest. Or he would be bored, so he would just randomly change position with other members of the team, so he could no longer function as a character at all. And even when I did get the opportunity to use him, he would miss because he also got the quirk Lazy Eye, which just reduced his accuracy. And I had to deal... This guy, I think he attacked once in the entire dungeon, and the rest of the team did all the work, and then he took all the rewards, and I was like, I need to bin this guy, because you can fire them, right? You can send them on their way and replace them with somebody else. And I had to have a vote, and everyone voted to keep him, obviously. I should have seen that coming. I keep it there, but that's the nature of this game. That is the absolute nature of this game. My first day involved me doing a lot of testing, sciencing, learning. How do these characters work? All the classes work differently. An occultist can heal, but he also causes you to bleed while doing it. He's got, like, he can have a really big heal, but that heal can also cause that target to bleed. At the same time, though, he can maneuver all the other enemies around using tentacles. He's, like, linked to Cthulhu in that way. So I'm really learning combos. There's a lot of good synergies. You have things like marking a target, and then another character can take advantage of marked targets. So I'm really piecing all my team together. What I did manage to do was kill my first boss. This actually was surprisingly easy. I think I was playing it a bit safe, obviously, because the nightmare about Darkest Dungeon is you can just have someone get killed. Because if the rolls go the wrong way and they dodge your attacks and you don't hit and things like that, and they all hit one person, you can lose somebody. There's a lot of investment that goes into each character as they level up. Because obviously you get these characters, you've leveled them up through doing dungeon runs, and now you can give them advanced weaponry, good trinkets, you can give them better armor, you can upgrade their skills. And money is kind of a conserve. Certainly, I've played for, what, 7 hours now, maybe? And my money's not really going up to tremendous numbers, because you're spending a lot to keep the guys upgraded and fresh to be able to do things. So I am playing it a little bit safe. My first boss, the Necromancer, was kind of cool. I discovered Blight, which I can apply with my Plague Doctors, stacks. So it only lasts for a certain amount of turns, but if you keep reapplying it, it will stack up. But obviously, like, the first application will fall off. It only stacks so high. It's not going to infinitely stack, because the first one you hit will run out after a certain amount of turns, and then the next one, and so on. But I managed to stack Bleed and Blight onto the enemy. And I was like, wow, this wasn't that bad at all. I killed the Necromancer. I had my Crusader at the front who was dealing with the ads, and my Plague Doctor and Highwayman were just working on the boss and managed to drain health. And I was like, that's really cool. But on the way to it, there was a stick in the ground with like a red orb in it. And I was like, well, I'm not clicking that because I've just rested. You can rest at you can camp in the dungeon, which will de-stress you and heal you up, sort of like a checkpoint, certainly on longer dungeons. So I'm not going to click that now, but I'll click it after the boss, because it might give me a bad quirk, it might give me more stress, I don't know what the boss is going to do. So I killed the boss, and as I made my way back, the second I clicked it, the thousands of people who were watching me play just Pepe laughed, because they knew what was coming, because they always do. Like, they just started laughing, because this summons something called the Shambler. The Shambler nearly fully shambled me in a big way, and there was a panic that rose in me that I hadn't felt before, because I think if I would have died here, I would have failed the quest to kill the boss. It would have set me back the whole way, and this thing was infinitely harder than the boss itself. Every single attack gave me like 30 stress of the 100 stress bar, and it kept maneuvering. It had super high armor. It was very resistant to dots. It was a beast, and it's summoning ads that also do stress damage. People were on the brink of death several times. My occultist was like, I'm at death's door, which means he has a chance to die, and I managed to heal him and get him out of death's door, but he would then go back to death's door, so he's nearly dead again. I scrambled to anything, and this panic, this fear, is pure joy. Absolute joy. Absolute joy. I don't know where our adventure is going to take us in Darkest Dungeon. This is a little preliminary intro to our journey, but goddamn, this is going to be a fun ride, guys, and I hope you stick around for it. I'll have updates every time we have something to share. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again. Bye, guys.